watching that light bulb turn on, that aha moment when you move someone from a point of not understanding into understanding, teaching in theater at the church, just moving people towards that place of realization.
Uh, okay, let's go ahead and just. This is weird because we're such good friends and so close that when it comes to, hey, let's record a conversation between us, it's a little awkward, don't you think?
I mean, yeah, it's like, what are we going to talk about? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's things you don't know about me, but it's like we've known each other for so long. I mean, it's kind of, it is funny.
Well, that's what I was thinking about is yes, we've known each other for so long, but I feel like I've known you for like maybe the second half of your life. And the first half of your life,
Mm,
there's all of these amazing experiences and stories that I know a little bit about, but I kind of
right.
don't know the full thing. So I thought it'd be kind of neat to kind of hear that part of your life because I've always been curious, like I know that you went to school here at Iolani, right?
Hmm.
For high school. But that's pretty much on and that you worked with Mr. Bright, but I that's pretty much the gist of it. But what yeah, were you always at Iolani from kindergarten?
No, I actually started at Iolani in third grade.
Oh,
So for 3 years, I went out to Heia, out in Kaneohe, which was close to my parents' house, up above Windward Mall, back then. And yeah, so I went there for 3 years. Went to a babysitter because my mom taught out in Pearl City. So I'd walk down the road with the sitter's kids who were around the same age as me. One was a little bit older, one was younger. So, they would pick me up and we'd walk down together. And yeah, grew up in
what
Kaneohe.
age
But
is that?
oh gosh, kindergarten is
Oh,
6 years old, 6, 7, 8 years old. Yeah.
so
So
wait, you and some 5 to 8 year olds just walked down by yourselves?
I think the oldest sister was probably, so if I was kindergarten, first, second grade, she was like fourth or fifth. So she was slightly older
Still
than
like
us.
10 years old. That's still
Yeah,
young.
she was 10. Yeah. I mean, times have changed, right? So
Yeah.
back then, everybody, there were tons. I mean, we all walked, um, I don't know, maybe we were naive and we didn't hear about kids getting snatched, or maybe people just didn't want us back then.
I'd like to believe that it wasn't that. It's just that nobody was had cultivated that kind of evil yet.
Yeah, I know.
It's good
It's funny.
times.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it was a definitely, of course, a different time growing up,
Hmm.
even from 25 years ago. So yeah, but went to Ilani in third grade. Would catch a ride with another boy who was from that side also. So would catch a ride with he and his mom. Um, and this was pre H3 days. So I used to have to wake up like at 6 and be ready by 6:30, and it would take us almost an hour to get to town.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy.
Was that because of traffic or just taking going leaky leaky is just that?
It was traffic because there was only the Pali and
Oh.
the Like. So yeah, everybody and
Mm.
everybody, of course, the population, there weren't as many people living on the windward side, but it
Yeah.
was traffic. Yeah, it was just crazy traffic the whole time.
Do you have any memories that stick out from the time that era when you were walking to school? Because when I was in elementary school, I used to catch the bus to
Hmm.
school, and I have these stories that stick out in my mind. Do you have any that kind of stick out in your mind of your adventures walking to school?
Not really. I mean, my mom would drop me off at school. Because she was a school teacher, she would
Hmm.
drop me off. Still, I was getting to school by like 6:45, 6:30, because she was still had to go all the way to Pro City from Kaneohe. So it took her an hour to get to Pro City.
Wow.
Um, and she had to get there by like 7:15, 7:30. But so I remember getting dropped off, when it's kind of sometimes pitch dark, and she made friends with the head custodian, Mrs. Pang, and Mrs. Pang would drag. I would drop my lunch off and my bag off in her office. Was basically the janitor's closet,
Yeah.
And then I'd walk with her, and we'd unlock all the gates,
No
you know,
way.
yeah, to the open up the office, open up the different buildings and stuff. And then if we finished early, we would the library was right next door, and we'd sit down and we'd have like, I don't know, we would have crackers or something before my teachers got there. So that was one thing I remember back then. I mean, that was a
Wow.
pretty strong memory because
Yeah.
you know my mom told me, when if I became a teacher, make friends with the custodian. And I understood why, because she really took care of me. Yeah, that's probably one
Wow.
I remember. The other thing, walking home, is we were stoked if the Tasty Freeze truck was along the route or anywhere close. You heard that music, and we'd be like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh my God, where's the truck?" And we'd like, you know, detour as long as it was in a far detour. Go grab our what do you have? We would have a, ice cream cone with rainbow sprinkles or a chocolate dip. Oh gosh,
Oh,
yeah.
so they would actually like that they would scoop the ice cream fresh
It,
there?
it was
Because
it was
nowadays it's just
it was the soft frozen kind.
oh, okay.
So they just put it on the cone, and then they would dip it inside the sprinkles, or
Oh, that sounds
dip it
amazing.
upside down inside the hot chocolate. Oh yeah,
Nowadays it just seems like these trucks they just have like the prepackaged ready-made stuff and like, well, I can
yeah.
get that at the store, but
Oh, we had those too. I mean, we had the vanilla popsicles and fudgesicles and all that stuff. But if you wanted to get the good treat, you got the
yeah.
or, yeah, or a banana split, or but then you held at the line too because they had to make the split.
It's interesting that your mom said, if you ever become a teacher, and then here you are, a teacher.
Mhm.
Did you always feel like that's what you were destined to become because of that?
Um, I want to say yeah. Um, she was a teacher. All of the people that that I called auntie back then were all teachers. Her older sister, was a elementary school teacher. Um, I remember we would go like to Hopeco, and I
Hmm.
would love to just walk up and down the pen aisles, and I like pick one of every color. Um, have the big 64 box of crayons. Never used it. If I had to sharpen it in the back, we're like, oh man, there goes one. I would like break the. You know,
Yeah.
I hated that. I don't know. I used to like to play school with my younger sister. Um, my mom was good friends with the shop teacher at her school, and he had an old chalkboard, and he made this little, maybe like 3 foot by 2 foot wide chalkboard with a little chalk rail and everything. And we didn't mount it. I remember it was too big, but I would play school. I had one of those. I don't know. I'm dating myself, right? One of those old play school desks.
Yeah.
Uh, it had that little folding lid, and
Hmm.
my sister sit on that, and I would copy problems from these workbooks that my mom would buy me. So, my sister, she was younger, so she humored me, and we played school. Um, I don't know. I enjoy doing that. I don't know if I was destined to be a teacher, but I remember her telling me that when I was little. It's like make friends with the 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 custodian and the office secretary, and she reminded me about that when I did become a teacher, and I was like, all right. So I made sure I was always said hi to those two people at my school, and it's paid off, I think.
Why the office secretary?
Um, because those ladies would literally run the school.
Oh.
They know all the ins and outs. They have all the paperwork. They uh back then, everything was manually entered, right? So they would keep
Hmm.
records of your attendance, just all the paperwork. And if you needed a favor, if you were like late with your purchase orders or something, you could always like go, hey, Mrs. Yamada, I'm so sorry, can I turn it in a day late? And they'd be like, okay, but you get on the wrong side of them, then they'd be like, nope, it's late, too bad. So I think that's why it was important to be nice to the secretary.
Did you ever have an incident where it was real bad and thank goodness for that that connection?
No, no, I can't recall. My friend at my current school, she's gonna hate me for telling this story, but I had just it was I think my first day of school with students. We start early and stuff, but the kids were on campus, and I was housed in one of the portables towards the back, and her portable was kind of diagonal to mine, and so it was my first day. I don't think I did even officially met her, and there was some rubbish on the sidewalk, kind of headed towards our rooms, and I had just happened to open my door to go step out to go to the office, and she goes, "Excuse me, did you leave this rubbish over here?" And I was just like, um, "No." I kind of looked at her like, "I don't even know you yet, lady," and yelling at me, and you know, so that was like my first encounter with her. And she's one of our just one of the ladies on the campus. I don't want to identify her too much because hate me for saying this, but yeah, I was just like, wow, first day on the job, you don't even know me, and I'm already getting scolded. I'm like, it's not even. I was like, I kind of like to go, no, it's not my rubbish. It's one of the kids, but it was just that was I think probably the only kind of bad encounter I've ever had with any of the school personnel. I think I've been very, very fortunate that I've stayed on the good side. I think at least on everybody I have, then they've been nice enough to not to tell me that I'm on their bad list.
Man, that could have gone so wrong because having that been your first experience, like that could have set the tone for the rest of your, relationship. But I
Totally.
have a
I
feeling she
mean,
sounds like it's okay, right?
oh no, we're really, really good friends. She is one of the sweetest, nicest
Oh,
ladies on the campus. She's been there forever, and she always knows when I'm going to start bringing up that story when we talk to people. But she just has become. I'm a big fan of hers. She's a big fan of mine. The kids all love her, and it's just been a neat relationship. I think I talked to my EA after that. It's like, who is that lady?
yeah.
That's in that room, and she goes, "Oh, that's so and so." I said, "Oh, she just kind of yelled at me." She goes, "Yeah, that's kind of her. Welcome to our school." I'm like, "Wow, all right." But it was, I mean, I've had such a super good career so far at my school that I absolutely love my school.
Do you do you feel like you've kind of taken that experience and do that to the incoming teachers now yourself? Like, oh, this is I'm gonna pass
No,
it forward. Yeah.
um, no, I think I like to. There's another teacher who is an old timer there. She's close to the same age, but she started teaching, right after she got out of college. And she's almost like she and another lady were almost like the unofficial welcoming committee for our school.
Mm,
They made sure they introduced themselves. They're at our first faculty meeting. They just always were always very, very cordial. She's become another one of my good friends on campus too. So I try to remember that and remember what it's like walking into a brand new school as a brand new teacher, and then just being like, trying not to have deer in headlights, but there are just so many things going on, that you're just are thankful for a friendly face that
yeah.
remembers your name and goes, "Hey, you're the new guy," or you're the new kid on the block, and they kind of hopefully take you under their wings, and I try and do that with all the teachers. I don't know if I've been successful with all of them. They may have been nice enough to not tell me that I was a jerk to them, but oh well, you know.
So, how long have you been teaching for?
Let's see. So I started in 1994 at this current school at Kaimiloa, and so next school year makes
Wow.
20 years. Yeah,
Holy smokes.
yeah. So it's been a while, but I'm not a career teacher, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be what I end up retiring from, and then well, besides the foundation and the studio. I think that's really my going to be my main vocation and profession that that will go on my tombstone.
What were you doing before you went into teaching?
um well, prior to that, about for about 11 years, I was on the staff at Hope Chapel Kaneohe, which is now Anchor Church in Kaneohe. But I was part of, I was going to church there and then became one of the administrative assistants to the singles pastor. And then he was moving to Japan to help take to start pastoring a church that needed new leadership. And having worked with him, we kind of, this is weird. We kind of decided that I would be the one to take his spot rather than talking to our boss.
Oh,
But it was an odd situation, but thankfully our head pastor was like, okay, I can see where you folks are going. So I became the singles pastor, I think, for 3 years. Then I was the office manager for another 3 years, and for my last 4 years, I was the what we call the celebration director. So kind of like, like what I do with the theaters, just like orchestrate all the different little groups that make the
ah,
the, the church service happen.
yeah.
Uh, so I oversaw the sound team, the ushers, the worship team. Help with the lights, help with the decorations, just did all that kind of stuff. And but different positions for like I said, 10 or 11 years.
It takes a very unique personality to have that quality to be able to not only lead but manage multiple groups and all the different personalities and stuff. And for you, that's all I've ever known you to do. Was that something that just came naturally to you, or was it something that you worked towards because it was something that you wanted to do?
Uh, I think it's just something, saying that, like, you had said previously that it was like it was like a talent or a gift. I think that's
Hmm.
more what it is. I don't think I've molded myself or been, put made into that kind of person. I
Yeah.
think I already had some of the raw materials to do that.
Mm.
I think I like to think I'm likable, that I'm approachable and personable, and I think that helps. When you're working with a multitude of people, is being able to feel comfortable with them, and then having them feel comfortable with you.
Hmm.
Um, Being able to troubleshoot problems, kind of quickly and calmly, without kind of panicking and making everybody else, who's already in a kind of panic situation, feel more panicked. I think
Hmm.
that's something that I already possess too. I mean, kind of like Devin. Devin has just had a very calming, persona.
What? The same? What are we talking about? The same
This is the
Devin?
Devin Nicole. That's the Devin, but that's one person that I think of, or Alec, Alec Shimizu. That's another, one of my he Alec is like one of my heroes. He just is so thoughtful and so wise in how he says and approaches things. But I don't know. I think it's just something that just kind of, either I gravitated to those kind of things,
Yeah.
or those things attracted me. There was almost the same statement. But I think that's, when I do think about it. Yeah, it's something that I've just always kind of done or been. Being Mr. Bright
Yeah.
production manager for song is just, I used to tell the staff at the church, because I used to have to run weekly staff meetings with all the administrative assistants as the office manager. We'd have our senior staff meeting, and then the next day I'd report back to them. It's just like, I'm not really the hub of the wheel, but for me, I'm touching all different aspects of a situation that around, but it doesn't revolve around me. But because I have to communicate to all of those things, then it kind of plays a central role in
Hmm.
everything that's going on. I'm just a part of the whole wheel, the whole machine, but it's just that I touch or connect so many different parts of it. Same thing with Mr. Bright, same thing at the school. It's just been something that I think I've always done, and I actually really do enjoy doing as well.
What in particular feeds this joy for you to do that? Because I've seen people who gravitate towards these kind of positions and they don't carry it with as much control and patience and grace as I've seen you do. And I feel like it's because they're in it for the position of they want to be in charge and they want people to look to them. And when it's more self-serving like that, that's where you get the people who aren't as patient or aren't as
Hmm.
willing to go with the strengths and weaknesses of those around them and instead try to force it. So for you it seems like I just see this pure joy of being a part of it. I know you are stressed, but it doesn't seem like you don't carry it across. So I'm curious what it is about this that feeds you specifically, and I think that might explain a little bit of why your style is the way it is.
Uh, I think it's because I hope my love for people genuinely comes across. I think
Mm,
being able to part of my job at the church at one point was to help people discover their spiritual gifts. I had to actually help run the class, but so it's kind of linked to just helping people find where they belong,
yeah,
troubleshoot that, or give them a place where they can feel like they're contributing to. So as like that, like I talked about being that central person, it's really I became like the pointers, like, hey, you're good at this, I need help with this. I'm not good at it, you're good at it, why don't you do it?
yeah,
Like if you you're my friend, right? So but if I didn't know you, but I found out that you're good at emceeing, that you have a knack for video editing, you have all these other things, I'd be like, Nolan, I have a job for you, would you mind considering this? And you'd be like, oh, okay. And then watching that person kind of either hopefully like it and grow into it gives me that sense of satisfaction. Same
yeah,
thing with the production. It as a performer, you kind of crave that
hmm,
applause. You crave that attention.
yeah. You need
But
that
then,
validation, right?
yeah, yeah. And then I found that, but I also felt very validated watching the families of the kids at the dance studio or the families of the kids at the theater, watching the joy that they express, watching their child accomplish something that they didn't think they could do. I think to me that was the probably the greater satisfaction that I feel.
Yeah,
Um, and so it became more of a less of a selfish motivation and
hmm,
more of a selfless, because you like to see your name in the program, um, under these different roles and things, but it's always nice just to know that you've had a hand in helping someone else be successful and or
yeah,
experience the success that you felt in those situations. So having worked with Mr. Braid and having worked with 24/7, there's so many opportunities that I've had over my career doing that.
yeah,
It's been so satisfying and gratifying, and that's the same thing with teaching. I think that's what appealed to me about teaching is, I remember writing in my I think it was my College of Education application. It's like the one thing I really have always enjoyed is watching that light bulb turn on, that
hmm,
aha moment when you move someone from a point of not understanding into understanding, or further along in their understanding, maybe not complete understanding, but moving them towards that. So, teaching in theater at the church, just moving people towards that place of realization, has always been given me that good feeling, you know.
yeah. Do you think that you kind of got that from maybe seeing growing up, seeing your mom experience that as a teacher, or was it just something that you kind of fell into and realizing through your life experiences that that's what really fuels your passion and brings you joy?
Uh, I mean, I'd like to. I do need to credit my mom because I saw the impact, like we had just talked about, that she had on so many of her students.
Mm,
There were days when, I would get sick. Maybe not so much at Yolanda because we're paying for me to be there. So, but when I was younger, she would just take me to school. She didn't want to get the other kids at the babysitter sick, so she'd just take me to school, and she was the music teacher. So she was the music teacher, and she had all these practice rooms that she could just kind of like lock me up in and keep an eye on me, but that I wouldn't interfere with the class. And I kept myself entertained anyway. Um, but it would be during the passing periods, or during lunch or after school, when all these kids would say, "Hi, Mrs. Lau. Hi, Mrs. Lau." I think that deeply impacted me. Uh,
mm,
my dad, in his career as a stockbroker, he didn't make us the millions, but he was able to advise people, and whether they took his advice or not in their investments. I think just watching how he handled people who, it was essentially like, this is my opinion, this is what I think, take it or leave
mm,
it. You do with it with what you do, what you want with it. But um watching the two of them in both of their careers, I think kind of helped me see that, understand that about myself. So I think I'm
yeah,
really a product of my upbringing, and then coupled with the kind of person that I have as a personality. I think it just kind of
yeah.
you know melt was a nice marriage. Uh, I'm not sure if I'm rambling or not, but
No, if you were, I just cut you off.
okay.
No, but I think that's really neat because getting to knowing you, this version of you,
Mhm.
I already see the polished, finished, amazing person that you are. So to hear where it kind of started and it started like brewing from
Mhm.
is really neat. And did
Well, like,
you? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, the one, two other people I think are
Yeah.
pretty responsible with it. I mean, first of all, Mr. Bright, just his belief in the person that he would attach himself to, or that he would surround himself with, was just probably the most, aside from my parents, the most self affirming thing, experience that I've had, that we try to share with the Bright Kid Foundation. But Aunty Mo taught me so much too about just the organization. When I became Mr. Bright's production manager, she I was literally taking a job that she had done all these years for free for Mr. Bright prior to the formation of the Castle Performing Arts Center, and now I was the one getting paid to do it. So she really kind of like gave me the template for all of that
Mm,
organization, and so I really just had to modify and adapt it to because she already knew Mr. Bright's style. She already knew how it wanted. She kind of taught me how to think. This was back in the day before cell phones and things like, I'd be getting phone calls, you know, all day. Like, Lao Lao, did you think about this? Or did you order the T-shirt? Da, 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 and but now with email and text and everything, it still happens. But back in the day, it was just like, oh, we didn't even have caller ideas. It was like, oh, it's Auntie Mo. I better answer this. Um, but those two, that couple, I think I'm so fortunate to have stumbled upon, that helped. I think what you said, to help bring more of that polish uh,
hmm.
to me, because it kind of coincided right at the same time that I started working at the church. I'm getting my timeline a little bit crossed, but um, I met the Brights right after my senior year in high school, and it was from there that I began that close relationship with them and their family. And it was, I think that would be, was like the, do you remember that old toy that was the diamond tumbler? It was just like a little cement mixer, and it would just tumble all the rocks, and all of a sudden you would have like these gems.
No.
You remember that? Oh my gosh.
No.
Um, that's what I think the Brights did for me. I think they helped polish me. They helped create a lot of that within me. I came. It was the diamond in the rough, and then I think they really just through their love, through their care, through their attention, through all that they poured in, not just to me but to everybody else that was fortunate enough to be part of that circle. Um, I cannot credit them enough for what they have done for me. I mean, there are so many. There are others as well, but um, uh, would not be a proper conversation with you, especially
Yeah.
to talk about the breaks, because you have come into the post Mr. Bright being around, but yet I'm hoping that you and the boys and Jamie have, you see kind of the impact that he had on us, and
Hmm.
um, you know, try not to cry.
How did you get connected with them? Because you said your senior year at Iolani, but
Mhm.
they were over at Castle
Right.
High School. So how did you get connected with them?
Um, how to make this long story short. So in seventh grade, I started taking like jazz dance class with my friend. I had no idea what jazz class was. I met Pam Sandridge, and so I started dancing, and we started a little dance club at Iolani. The one, I think it was our second or third teacher. She came in and she was like, "Hey, my kumuhula is starting a men's halal," and that was my senior year. And
Mm,
she's like, "You should audition." And so I auditioned and got in. So I met three boys from Kaneohe, the Wong brothers, and because I had a car and they were a family of six drivers, but only three cars.
mm,
There was the green bomb, the red car, and then the blue van. So there was always someone in need of a ride. So because I was fortunate to have my own car, a lot of times I would pick them up and go to hula practice. Um, so one day we were done with practice and they said, "Hey, can you drop us off at Castle Theater? We're rehearsing for My Fair Lady." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, no problem." I mean, it's on the way to their house anyway, so it wasn't really out of the way. And they're like, come inside, you got to meet Mr. Bright." So I went in there
wow.
and they were rehearsing. They were about maybe three weeks out from opening. So they had most of the set done. They had a big ramp going around the pit, and I sat there, and they walked in, and Mr. Wright was talking to a bunch of people, and one of the brothers, I don't remember which one, was like, "Hey, Mr. Wright, we want you to meet our friend Alan. He dances hula." And he turned on, like, the biggest smile. He's like, "Hi, welcome. Are you gonna hang out, watch rehearsal?" I was like, "I didn't know that's possible.
Yeah.
You let people watch rehearsal." You think, "Yeah, sure." So I sat down in the front row and watched them do this big dance number, get me to the church on time, and I was just like, I lived my whole life in Kaneohe and not known that this type of theater experience was there.
Wow.
So here I was, 18 years old, kind of being introduced to something that I love doing. Just kind of we kind of did it at Iolani, but I was just like, oh my gosh. And that was like the day. I remember they invited me. I wasn't even the show, but because I was a friend of the Wongs, and I think I went to almost every show after that when it opened, or
Wow.
I went every weekend. I think I played like 4 or 5 weekends. I think I went every weekend just because my friends were in it. and they would invite me to cast parties. I got to meet cast, and so I wasn't even really in the theater
Yeah.
yet, but I became a part of the family. They're like, "Hey, Alan's here," and they were like, "Oh, no, no, no." um, so that's really how I met them. I met Aunty Mo, I met Clark and Jody, their kids, and Michael, and then just started that. I just I think Mr. Bright was uh, the first person that called me Lau Lau, and growing up, it became like, oh yeah, that joke is so original,
Yeah.
but the way it became such a term of endearment for me
Yeah.
that it just stuck, you know. But so I'd walk in and we go, Lau Lau's here, um, and it was just uh, such a neat um, time for me to be part of that group because it was freshly out of high school. Well, still in high school, having danced that one year with the halal, and then the following year, I was at UH and they were doing Flower Drum Song, and two of the brothers were gonna audition for the show, and they said, "Hey, you know, they need dancers, they need boys, and they need Chinese. Go audition." And so Mr. Break cast me in the show, even though I wasn't from the school. I was a
Yeah.
graduate and everything, but he cast me in the show, and that was it. That was 1984.
Wow. Was that common that you saw that like not outsiders, but that people were just kind of welcomed in like that?
It wasn't so commonplace, but it wasn't out of the ordinary for Mr. Bright.
Okay.
I mean, he uh, there was another kid. Um, we're all so old now. John Ryan, who
Yeah.
was who had he had auditioned for, I think it was West Side Story, and that was in 1980. And there's no rules for, and John Bryan is black. There's
Hmm.
no rules for, in the original story, it's the whites versus the Hispanics, and Mr. Bright or JB wanted to be in the show so badly that Mr. Bright kind of created a character for JB to be in the show. And I think JB was a sophomore in high school, and so it wasn't commonplace, but it wasn't out of the ordinary for Mr. Bright to do that. There
Hmm.
was myself and Marcelo Pacleb. We both kind of met because of one of the Wong brothers, and we both became friends through Flower Drum Song, and that's led to where we're at now with 24/7. So but Marcelo didn't go to Castle. He went to IA high school, and was several years older. But it's just like it didn't bother Mr. Bright that, as long as the core cast members, the
Hmm.
lead and the a lot of the chorus were Castle students, but he opened it up, and then when we started the Performing Arts Center, it was Castle students plus Kalaheo and Kailua students, so it began to um, um, attract students from the other areas, and now CPAC has students from across the island that participate in the show. So I think it was just a different way of thinking. It's not so school centric. I think
Yeah.
you know.
It's so neat that performing arts was the vehicle to bridge gaps and bring people together when
Mhm.
a lot of times you think about it, it's so exclusive because you think of the audition process and they're just like very selective. But the way this is described, it's more like it's a tool to bring people together versus,
Mhm.
hey, let's put out only the best and make it very exclusive and such. It looked more like this was a way to bring things that are special within people out that
Mhm.
maybe they didn't know was there,
Yeah.
right?
No. I mean, you described it totally. I mean, that's almost. part of his philosophy, and it wasn't always we want the best. He saw something in someone that he liked. You know, he liked their energy, he liked their personality. They may not have been the best singer or dancer, but they had a presence on stage, or they had just something that he just saw inside them, or he knew that the theater was a place that was safe for them, that
Mm.
would be a place that would be nurturing for them, because outside the walls of the theater they didn't have such a good home life. So it became, that haven, that sanctuary for a lot of the kids. So, ourselves included. I mean, I didn't have a horrible childhood at all by any means, but it was also some place where I felt loved and cared for, and contributed,
Mm.
in some way, shape, and form to the greater production. I think that's kind of helped me, like we were talking about earlier, do what I like to do, is like to bring someone in and help them feel part of something, that they've contributed to something, whether it's, whatever gift they bring to the table. Um, it's kind of the same thing we did, that Lisa did. It wasn't all the best and the brightest, but there were people who, first of all, loved each other, and then loved the art that they got to create together, and the fun that we had along the way. So I think, those two, they really kind of had that, um, insight into what the arts can bring to so many people.
Yeah, I love that the arts are described in this way and shown in this way because for people maybe who haven't had that experience or aren't involved as much as you, and to a certain extent I have, like from an outsider's perspective it can look like a very exclusive type of thing and
Hmm.
cutthroat and very isolating, versus the way it's described here is it's uniting and brings things out of people, and and to see how powerful of a tool the arts can be,
Hmm.
it, it's so hard to hear when they talk about like cutting that from schools and not seeing the value in it, or these programs not being funded as much. It's just like, man, if you could
Yeah,
only see how significant this this tool could be for humanity, not just performers, it's people in general, just
yeah. I mean,
qualities of life, right?
yeah. I think, it's. I had 5 years ago now. I was in a special education line, and my principal at that time, she came up to me and she's like, "Hey, how many more years do you have?" Because I had committed to teaching special ed for another 3 years, and she goes, "How many years do you have?" I said, "I have one more." She goes, "Okay, good. This is what I'm thinking." I go, "What?" And she said, "I want you to do, um, uh, be a resource teacher and do drama, music, art, and dance at our school." And I mean, I don't know how shocked my face looked, but I was like, "Wow." I mean, I love all four of those things. I'm not a good artist. I draw the best stick figures ever. But the other thing, I'm just like, they resonate so much with me, that I was just like, "You're kidding." She goes, "No, these kids need exposure and experiences.
Mm,
They need to make those things." And so when I started to put this together, I came across a quote, and I can't remember where it's from, but it talks about how the arts really connect us to what makes us human. What
mm,
separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom is the arts: music, art, dance, photography, sculpture, basket weaving, pottery making. All of those things are expressions of the emotions that we have, and we're the only creatures that really can express those emotions through, um, that vehicle, an
yeah,
external vehicle, such as the arts. Dance, music, all of those things, are really expressions of what someone is feeling inside. Poems, writing is an art, but also all of those are, expressions of what makes us human. And I think
yeah.
that's why it's so important,
Hmm.
even, from young to old. And so to be able to do that now at my school is just so much fun. I can't believe it's, everyone goes, "Oh, it's that you're made for that job." I said,
Yeah.
"Nah." I think in a way I think she made the job for me,
Mm.
uh, because I wasn't the best classroom teacher. I mean, I wasn't bad, but she found a way to pair what I was passionate about with something that the school needed. In her wisdom, she's just like, the kids need this. So it's it. I'm so lucky that I get to do that. I tell the kids, as we're doing, different visual arts, that it's just like, hey, Mr. Lau is not good at this, but I'm practicing. And they go, no, you're so good. I said, I've been teaching this lesson 4 times in a row. By now, my sketch better be better. But they get to see me, even at my age, to still be a learner.
Hmm.
That helps them too, is that no matter how old you are, you're just still always should be, hopefully, learning and growing. Another thing that I had learned a long time ago about myself, that a good friend of mine had pointed out, is that I don't like to take blame for things. I didn't like, because it meant that I was deficient in something.
Mm.
And I think I had a perfection personality complex, and so to hear that I wasn't perfect was really hard for me. And he
Mm.
said, "Stop shifting the blame on others. This was your fault. You could have done A, B, C, and D to prevent this from happening." And that was a huge mirror for me. And so being able to tell the kids, it's okay to make a mistake. You mess up in a performance, it's okay. That's the thrill of being on stage. Yes, you want a perfect performance, but it reminds you of what makes you human, and then how you handle that defeat or that mistake. I think really either helps make or break part of your character. How
Yeah.
others help you grow through those things. When kids are drawing something, and they go, I messed up. I'm like, what do you mean messed up? Show me. And they go, oh, I take it and I just go, well, how about we do this? Let's fix. Let's add this line, add this here, or let's erase this here. Erasers are made to help fix mistakes, and rather than just crumple it up, and
Hmm.
start all over. I'm like, why do you want to start all over? That's more painful. Let's
Yeah.
take what you've got, and let's see if we can fix it a little bit to become something that you can be happy with it. And if not, we'll start all over again. Sometimes we do have to start all over, but just being
Yeah.
able to teach the kids that it's okay, to make those mistakes, because I hate it. If I going to Yolani, we had spelling tests. Oh,
Right.
I hated if I didn't get 100. Hated it.
Yeah.
Um, um, But so what did I do? Try and fix that mistake the next time I took it. And if I got a 93 again, I'd be like, oh God. But I think that created that character defect in me. But my friend being able to point that out and lovingly tell me in a firm way, hey, you're not perfect. This is what you do. Let's work in fixing it. Let's make that better
Hmm.
and turn it into something that you can help others do. So I mean, um, that's something I think that I try and pass along. Again, in all the things that I do, is that we are human. We express ourselves through these art forms, but we're not required to be perfect. The only person who requires us to be perfect is ourselves. And once we
Right.
move past that, then we're winning.
I think it's really neat that um, what that principal did in creating, or you thinking she created this position for you, or whatnot. It's so similar to what your approach to your leadership style is, of seeing where people's strengths are and putting them into positions
Mm,
to use those. And
yeah,
it's kind of neat that that happened for you too.
I never thought of that. That's
Really? Oh,
yeah,
that's like the first thing I thought
yeah.
was like, hey, it's like what you
Really?
do for everyone else. Someone's doing it
Oh
for
no,
you.
I mean, like I said, I'm just so lucky. I get to do that at a school, and we're not there to create, actors, singers, dancers, but my school is in a heavily Filipino population, and I just tell them, I said, look at all these dancers that I know, look at all these Filipino singers, and I tell them, I said, look at all these local people. I love to use local examples. I love to talk about Ian Tongi. Bretman Rock is a graduate of our school. I will even talk to them about, look at, back in school, Bretman wasn't the best academics, but he always had that gregarious personality, and he turned it to an asset and has used it to do something with his life. And I think, um, being in this position, even if I weren't teaching this position, still being able to affect the kids' lives that way and encourage them, to think of themselves beyond what they see, in their four
Hmm.
walls. And it's the same thing that Mr. Bright did for us, is just, believing that we can, and then allowing us to fall, to stumble, and then helping us to get back up, and you know brush it off and just go, hey, it's all right, buddy.
Yeah.
Big deal.
I wanted
We
to ask you to share a little more about your performance side, because I know so much about you from, you know, the the leadership side. But for you to have been involved with dance for so long, I have to imagine that you as a your performance dancer performance uh history must be pretty there must be pretty a deep story there too, which I haven't really heard much
uh,
personally from you. What's that? Because I know you said you were dancing in high school and stuff. Like,
yeah.
where did it go from there?
um I guess if we're to talk about like things that were capstones throughout my dance career, um
Yeah.
the probably the first one was dancing with my halal. Um, we were brand new halal. We entered the Merry Monarch, and that was, growing up. That was one thing that, my mama would always watch. Since
Oh.
it's the session, we would watch it on TV. I had always wanted to go Kamehameha schools because she was a music teacher. She
Hmm.
loved watching the song contests. Just
Uh,
everything about the song contest she just loved, and I was just kind of like, oh, it must be so cool to go to that school. And I knew that was like the chances of me getting in, because I'm like full on Chinese. I'm like, might not get in there, but we sit there and watch them do, all of the standing and all
yeah.
that stuff. But so she made me very aware of the special culture that we have here in Hawaii, and watching the Merry Monarch, and then being in a halal that was going to compete. That was already like, uh, bucket list things, and here I was at 18, dancing with, on the stage at the Edith Kanaka Ole Stadium. It was just like surreal, you know. So that was huge. We placed in Kahiko, and I think we placed third and fifth. So it was not bad for a first year halal.
Yeah.
There's that. Having performed with Mr. Bright's group up in, we I think I did four productions at the International Thespian Society Festival. So it's a huge, like it says, a group of international theater groups, all high school. And we performed several times. We took Flower Drum Song up there. So that was my first show with Mr. Bright. We remounted it for a trip in the summer. And I think we performed, I think this auditorium that we performed is definitely bigger than the concert hall. It was on Ball State University, and it was just this massive theater, Emmons Auditorium, and performing that show. But also then, because we're from Hawaii, it was one of the first times a large group from Hawaii had come up. They asked us to do, the opening ceremony. They always have like some kind of opening ceremony. So naturally, being from Hawaii, we took hula dancers and Tahitian drums, and did this full on like 15-minute Hawaiian review. And you know, you have a room full of prepubescent to pubescent teenagers, and you've got girls in hula skirts and topless males in pareo, and we're doing our thing, and they were just like, that. That was that was not bucket list, but that was another memorable moment. But
Yeah.
being part of that experience with Castle was amazing. Having um, dancing at Castle led to the formation of 24/7, and then when we um, you know, back when, now everything's kind of taped, but Miss Hawaii was, video broadcast live. Being broadcast live across the state was just, another, just kind of like, you know it was huge, to be on
Yeah.
this, statewide stage. Same thing like the Merry Monarch. So those those are kind of like big performance um, things for me, and then being able to perform in shows that, as a theater geek in the 80s, 20 years later when the rights became available, we were able to do Miss Saigon and Les Miserables and Phantom of the Opera at Paliku with Mr. Bright. Those were other experiences too, just to be able to do shows that we had, admired growing up, and then to partake in those things. And, you know, um, that's epic as well. Um, and then I think most recent memory was maybe was it last year we got a hula class started at 24/7, and I decided I was going to participate in the class, and it was going to perform in the concert. And it just so happened that that year 2023 was 40 years that I had started dancing hula, and it was the 40th anniversary of
Wow.
me having met the Brights, just starting me in this whole, lifetime journey to where I'm at now. I was just like, wow, it just kind of, it was, a pretty, like full circle moment
Yeah.
for me, to be dancing hula again. Cause I hadn't danced hula. I stopped dancing hula, 1995, I think. 98. I think
Oh,
98 I was done. Yeah. Did a little bit in the show in Waikiki, and went up to Japan for a couple of weeks to perform at an expo there. But never, my hula career never really was much. But I just had stopped dancing, but because the opportunity was there at the studio, I was just like, I might as well get some exercise, you know, and be able to perform again. So that was yeah. Last year was like my first official return to. No, well, I had done some other songs in some other concerts, but to do hula again 40 years later was just super special.
did it feel like I should get back to doing this again, or was it that was great? Back to
uh, I
retirement.
think I did one more song, and then now this upcoming concert we got they're doing a whole bunch of songs that I'm like, oh, I wish I were doing this, but because I'm taking care of my dad right now, I'm trying to spend as much time as I can with him. I opted not to, but I was telling my friend, I said, I'm like, oh my gosh, the FOMO is so real right now. I'm listening to them play the music, I'm watching them rehearse, I'm just sitting there going, oh. And the other week is like, it's not too late, Alan. I said, don't tell me that, because I'm gonna go back on my decision, and I don't, I want to, but I don't want to. I'm like, ah. But yeah, it was. I think of any of the genres, that's probably the easiest one to me to go back to. Of course, I don't have the 20-year-old body, so there's no way you're gonna catch this shirtless anymore. Uh, but it was fun, and it's just nice to have you know made that anniversary. So if I don't do it again, I'd be okay.
I don't know if you'd be okay. It would just be.
We're, for the sake of the recording, I'm okay. We're friends. I'm not okay. Nah.
Well, I want to. I mean, you're involved with so many great things that have benefited, our family and such. So my whole thing is, I just want more people to be touched by the things that you've been a part of and that are putting out there, because I think that you are such a gift to our islands, and I wish every family had a Mr. Lau in you know in their lives. So my mission is to spread you as far as I can across the island. But what are the different things that you have going on that families could learn more about or get involved with?
Um, well, the two things outside of coming to my school and having your
Yeah.
kids be one of my students, um, the first one is the I'm a Bright Kid Foundation. We are gonna start signups for our summer musical theater program very, very soon. Um, it's a 4 week long program, kind of mini intensive in a ways in putting together a not a maybe not a full blown musical theater production, but giving the kids an experience from an audition process to rehearsal to sometimes character discovery, learning about choreography and things, and then doing a performance for the families and for the public at the end of July. That's coming up. Um,
Wait, before you could move on from that, I wanted to ask you to explain, because when if you're a person outside and you hear
uh,
that description and you go, oh, but my kid's not talented, or like, it sounds like very like this is hardcore for performers. Yet I know from experience of sending our kids to the summer program who had zero experience prior and honestly didn't have aspirations of performance, what they were able to get out of this is incredible. So I want you to kind of explain that it's not just this is a workshop for the summer for aspiring performers. Like you're using performance as a vehicle for something greater than just putting
yeah,
on a show.
I mean, I hope I mean because I only know what I've experienced, and I
Yeah.
hope that our program isn't alone in taking people that are like you said, not aspiring to performers, but to give them the opportunity to find that or to experience that in some way that is validating for them, and taking what we talk about with Mr. Bright is believing in them that they can,
Hmm.
and they might not be the soloist, but this may be the first time that they stepped on stage in front of an audience and finding out like I like this, this is fun, and giving them that vehicle to explore that. Um, we've had kids who never stepped on stage before, like you had said, and but just kind of what we've been talking about, finding a way to help them fit in. They may not be a dancer, but if they can sing "Happy Birthday," we'll get them on stage. If they can stand there and smile and add energy and background to what's going on, and help paint the picture that our directors are trying to create, then that's just as good, because I think what one thing Mr. Bray always taught us is, his brother-in-law used to come to every show, not every single show, but would come to every production, and
Hmm.
he would say, Ronnie, I don't watch the lead. I'm not paying attention to them. I'm watching that girl in the background. I'm watching that boy in the fourth row, because I'm going to see if they're part of the picture. And so,
Mm.
Mr. Bright and Uncle Gilbert helped us realize that every person on stage and behind stage is just as important as the person that's in the spotlight. And so that's one thing I think we try to do with the summer program, is to help the kids understand you may not have the solo, you may not be, front and center, but there can only be one person front and center, or rotate, you can rotate it around, but there's only that one spot. And so we try and spread that out with everybody, and move kids around and help them find that spotlight on, that we can shine on them in their own way. So yeah, I mean, it's it's fun to do, to
Yeah.
watch, to have watched the boys. I mean, you remember when I got Wes to just sing that one song. I was just like, come on, I mean, it's not even in person; it's virtual. We're recording this, but will you just do this for me and Unc? And he's like, oh, okay. And but he may not have gone on to do that, but that was, I think, such a huge hurdle for him.
Yeah.
That hopefully years down the road he'll remember, like, yeah, actually I did do something that I didn't think I could do. I hated doing it. I hated doing it before I was doing it. I kind of hated it while I was doing it. I hated it afterwards, but I did it, you
Yeah.
know? So we can never take that away from him, that he did do it, you know? Um,
Hmm.
so hopefully, the kids that continue to come through the program will have that kind of, um, I guess, success story with
Well,
as
what I love about it too is that it's similar to what you were talking about as far as the role that the arts plays in education and for providing just another avenue for kids to connect with the different things that they might not know about themselves. And so
well.
even from the perspective of this program, I think builds so much camaraderie and connection between kids because they learn how to like come together and
Mhm.
create something together,
Yeah.
and it's not a competition of like outdoing the other person. And like what we imagine performing arts is like, oh, it's like, divas and cat battles and things like that. But when you walk into, if you ever, I was fortunate to kind of just sit back and observe, a typical day. It's just like the love and the joy that just from the interactions
Mm.
from the kids, like that's what the program to me, where the value is.
Mhm.
It wasn't necessarily like, are they going to help turn my kid into a performer and become a Broadway star? I was like, no, I want my kid to find the joy in interacting with others and to
Mm.
create relationships that have meaning.
Yeah.
And the how you guys did that using the arts is just so magical. So
Mm.
I hope people when they hear this aren't thinking, well, my kid's not a performer, or they don't have any desire to. It's not necessarily about performance. It's just this is an experience that can build up these other great qualities of just being a human being.
Yeah.
That's what I think is so awesome about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny though, because I'm like, I know all the dirt. I know all the. It's not like we are it. I just hope that uh, we're able to use the arts as that vehicle.
Yeah,
We may or may not be successful with every student.
of course.
They may
Yeah,
not have the best experience with us, but that's, I think, just the nature of any kind of program as well.
exactly.
But,
Yeah.
uh, I think what you've heard us talk about this before. What we're trying to do is really emulate the experience that Mr. Bright gave us, even though we're not. We're such poor substitutes for Mr. Bright
We're
that we
not
want,
poor
but we're gonna
subs.
keep doing it. I mean, there's we all have our different faults and struggles, and Mr. Bright wasn't perfect either, but what we saw and what he put forth whenever he was in front of us, and even when he wasn't, when because I got to know his family really well, you still saw a man who was like, hey, I'm good at this, I'm not so good at this, so I'll surround myself with people that are good at it, like his wife. She was excellent in organization, and then when his wife couldn't do it, he was like, Lau Lau, you're pretty good at organizing things. Why don't you do her job? And
Hmm.
I grew into, grew and filled up my big boy pants, through his experience. Uh, so there's the foundation, and but again, the another thing that really Mr. Bright kind of had a hand in creating is 24/7 is, it's another venue for performing arts, and we do it through dance, through that form. but it's kind of the same thing. We've had kids come in that I'm like, oh, I like only hip hop, and then
Hmm.
we encourage them to take, oh, you know what, you might want to take some jazz or ballet because it's really the foundation, and then they find that they like it, or that they enjoy doing it. So it's kind of a similar story, but it's now just through telling a story through dance movement. Um, what the Let's see, we've got a concert coming up Easter weekend, and what's neat about this one is it's all themed around Broadway shows. So
Oh
it's
wow.
kind of, yeah. So we're kind of coming um, another full circle moment at the studio where we're really returning back to our roots because a lot of the dancers from the original group were from Mr. Bright's musical theater,
Oh
and we
wow.
just happened to start dancing together, and now it's grown into what it is now. But it's fun to be the old man in front of the room and tell the kids, like, yeah, 24/7 has its roots in musical theater, so this is why we're doing it, because um musical theater, the song kind of moves the story forward. So we're trying to tell some of the stories of some of the shows that we picked, that the choreographers have picked to showcase, and tell some of the story through those songs and through the dance. We're doing things like Hamilton, um, Once on this Island, In the Heights, what's some other ones with Newsies. So it's a really fun, um, a full circle moment for this dance studio as well.
And your dance studios in Windward Mall, which uh, I thought was really cool because before it's always kind of like this mythical, like, oh, there's dance studios. I'm like, where are they? And then here our friends center, like right next to the movie theater, and I always thought that 24/7 was just like, I've only seen when I was younger. It was like I'd just seen the hip hop dance performances,
Mhm.
and then as I've gotten to know and see that, yeah, you offer such a variety of different, types of classes and stuff. Like it's a true dance studio, not just a hey, they just do street dancing for fun on the side. It's like it's a legit thing that you guys have been doing for so many. It's been decades now. Yeah, decades, right?
30, 32 years,
Wow,
something like that.
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. We're very fortunate that we have um, a support system, parents that have supported us all these years. Uh, the legacy that Mr. Bright imparted in us, and then what Marcelo created, and then the dancers that came out of the studio. There's kind of a history that some of the kids, we don't tell them that they have to live up to, but this is where we've come from. So this is
Hmm.
kind of like what my mom did for with Hawaiian culture and Chinese culture. Is like, this is who you are, this is who has preceded you, so you have to kind of continue that legacy. So that's kind of what we tell the kids, like, this is where we've come from. So there's a tradition of excellence, of storytelling in both the theater and at the studio that we want to continue, and so that's the standard that we hold everybody to, and try and kind of push everybody towards that.
Well, I am so grateful for people like you who recognize those standards and are continuing to push our future generations towards those because you are one of the shining pillars in our community that I think just we need to continue to polish you guys up so that you can continue to shine. So having you join me on here and share with me all of these really wonderful stories and things that I've been wanting to find out from you for all these years. Now I've had an excuse to ask you about them. So thanks
Yeah,
for opening up and sharing all that with us.
pleasure,
It's
Nolan.
been really great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not really shy about talking about things that I've gone through or myself. So kind of came kind of easy.
Well, I will be probably seeing you on a at a stage or a theater very soon. So until then, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks a lot, Nolan.